Trade-based money laundering risk assessment. Trade-based money laundering risk assessment, or TBML risk assessment, is an important component of the enterprise risk management framework. In any organization, the design of a risk management framework starts with articulating the organization's risk appetite, which then drives the risk management policy and tolerance. The trade-based money laundering risk assessment requires extensive assessment of both external and internal environments and risk factors. This is an ongoing process by which a firm determines the risks that exist and how they can be mitigated. The trade-based money laundering risk assessment requires the involvement of all three lines of defense of the entity. The implementation of the Trade Anti-Money Laundering Policy, or AML policy, entails setting up the risk governance and control environment, which includes the formation of the Board of Directors, Audit Committee, Executive Committee, and the three lines of defense. First line: business operations which perform the day-to-day risk management activities. Second line: compliance provides oversight and set directions, defines trade transaction controls, develops and implements anti-money laundering or AML policies, and performs compliance reviews. The trade-based anti-money laundering reporting officer is responsible for the review and implementation of the Trade Anti-Money Laundering or AML program, and he must be well-trained and qualified to do the job. And third line: internal audit offers an independent challenge to the levels of assurance provided by business operations and oversight functions, and ensures that the systems and controls function effectively. Outcomes from the audit are inputs for continuous improvement of the compliance risk management process. Multiple levels of risk assessments are being conducted periodically. Some are done annually, some may be done ad hoc in the event of specific situations, and others are even performed continuously based on observations and monitoring done on customers. The trade-based money laundering or TBML risk assessments are usually conducted on a quarterly or 6-monthly basis. It depends on the type, size, and complexities of the business and operations. If the business and operations are complex and the entity is large, catering to too many traders for imports and exports, then a more frequent trade-based money laundering risk assessment is recommended. In trade-based money laundering risk assessment, the significant trade-based money laundering risks are identified and assessed for the impact and probability of occurrence. The inherent and residual risk assessments are performed by the trade-based anti-money laundering team and compliance function. Each identified risk can be broken down to identify the exact exposure of the entity to trade-based money laundering. Trade-based money laundering risk assessment involves the identification and assessment of money laundering and terrorist financing risks. Trade-based money laundering risk assessment involves assessing the risks related to the geography of buyers and sellers, type of trade customers, goods involved, jurisdictions involved, beneficiaries, mode of trade payments, currencies involved, and applicable regulations are considered. This risk assessment comprises different criteria, used to calculate the risk score for each identified trade-based money laundering risk. The risk assessment can serve as some sort of a map of vulnerabilities. It is important to understand how money launderers might seek to misuse a specific product or service to launder money. The trade-based money laundering risk assessment considers the controls that are developed and implemented to mitigate the identified trade-based money laundering risks. This can allow you to come up with a good strategy to combat these risks and divide the potentially scarce resources that the entity has available. Trade-based money laundering risk assessment performed in financial institutions is an ongoing process because in these institutions there are always new things happening, such as the launch of new products, the announcement of new regulations, technological advancements, changes in customers' behavior, etc. The changes in business and operations therefore require proper assessment of trade-related money laundering and other financial crime risks.